Sake is really very, very food friendly. It goes a very, very wide range of cuisines. There's no reason at all to limit it to Japanese food. Sake is different from other beverages in many ways. Number one is how it's made. The raw materials are rice and rice alone. No other fermentable materials are used. However, if you look at how we make beer, we take barley and we malt the barley to get the enzymes to chop the starch into sugar. Then you can ferment that. With sake, because the husks are never on the rice to begin with, they've been milled away before you begin, you need to get enzymes somewhere to chop the starches into sugar, and they get that from a mold known as Aspergillus oryzae, or koji mold. And they sprinkle this mold about 25% of the rice. That gives you the enzymes to chop the starch into sugar, after which you can ferment that and get alcohol and carbon dioxide. If you remember one word about sake, let the word be ginjo. Ginjo is the top 13% of all sake. If you remember one more word, remember daiginjo. Daiginjo is ginjo to die for. It's about the top 6%. That doesn't mean that it's the only thing worth drinking. There's a lot of lower grades that are much fuller and richer and very, very enjoyable. But if you just want to remember one word, let that word be ginjo. What we have here is a nigori sake. Now when sake is made, it's fermented in a large tank for about a month. And you've got rice dissolving and the sugar that results from that dissolution then being fermented in alcohol. So after a month-long fermentation, you've got this white, milky mash. And you need to filter out the rice dregs to get the clear sake that we've been drinking. When you use a coarser mesh to allow some of the rice solids to come through, you end up with nigori sake, which we have here. One thing that people don't think about when it comes to sake is that there's 100 different varieties of rice out there, not one. And 100 different varieties of yeast out there, not one. And the combination of those leads to a huge range of sake and flavor profiles out there. It's called Junmai Shu. This is an organic sake. There's very few organic sake in Japan. Of 1,200 brewers, there's only about 10 that make it. This is only one of 2 breweries in Japan that actually has their organic sake certified all over the world. Yeah, sake is a lot like tasting wine. First of all, it's very personal. Everyone will have their own way of tasting it. But beyond that, again, you look at aromas, you look at how it strikes the palate, you look at acidity, you look at breadth, you look at depth, you look at layers, you look at complexity, you look at the finish, you look at retronasals as well. So it's very, very much like tasting a wine. For the most part, sake has a much smaller footprint, a lower presence than wine. But the subtlety is very much there as well. I think what Americans like about sake is that, first of all, it's quite delicious, it's quite simple, it's quite straightforward. However, there's nothing like it on the planet so far that we've experienced. In other words, no matter how good the next IPA is, it's still another beer. No matter how good this year's vintage is, it's still another wine. No matter how cool the next vodka is, it's still another distilled beverage. But sake, there's nothing like it.